The smell of crushed tomato leaves and wet peat moss always clears my head. I scrape a thick layer of potting soil from beneath my thumbnail, using the dull edge of my rusted pruning shears. My hands are mapped with age spots and calluses, the hands of a simple, dying gardener. That is exactly what my daughter-in-law, Linda, sees when she looks at me. Just 2 hours ago, she stood in my kitchen, her expensive perfume cutting through the scent of my damp earth. Eat up, Elias. Your mind is slipping and we need to sign the estate over before you forget your own name. My daughter-in-law cooed, handing me the soup laced with the same undetectable neurotoxin she used to kill my wife. She served it in Martha's favorite floral porcelain bowl, a casual cruelty disguised as care. She thinks I am just a tragic widower losing his grip on reality. What she doesn't know, and what you need to understand right now, is that my dirt-stained fingers have spent 40 years identifying chemical weapons for MI6. I recognized the faint, bitter ester profile of the synthetic nerve agent before the spoon even touched my lips. I smiled, swallowed the antidote I'd secretly synthesized in my potting shed from fertilizers and bone meal, and took a bite. I let the silence hang in the greenhouse, feeling the cold steel of the shears in my palm before I agreed to sign the transfer papers for my $3.5 million estate. Because what she and her doctor lover didn't know was that I had already laced their hidden poison vial with a military-grade forensic tracer. It bonds permanently to the oils in human skin. When the lawyer arrives this Friday, I am bringing a high-powered ultraviolet light to the reading, and when I kill the main power, their hands are going to glow in the dark. The spoon scrapes against the bottom of the floral porcelain bowl, a high-pitched squeak that cuts through the quiet of the kitchen. I keep my hand trembling, a calculated, rhythmic shake that I've practiced in the mirror for 3 weeks. The soup is a heavy cream of mushroom and thyme, rich and thick, designed to mask the bitter metallic tang of the synthetic organophosphate compound Linda just stirred into it. I bring the spoon to my mouth. The liquid is hot, scalding the roof of my mouth, but I don't flinch. I swallow. The antidote I took 10 minutes ago, a proprietary blend of pralidoxime chloride and a synthesized oxime reactivator I cooked up in my shed, is already binding to the acetylcholinesterase enzymes in my bloodstream, neutralizing the nerve agent before it can reach my synaptic clefts. Linda is watching me. She stands by the kitchen island, her hands clasped in front of her pristine white apron. Her nails are painted a soft, innocent pink. But I know the chemicals she handles when she thinks I'm asleep. She is waiting for the signs, the slight droop of the eyelid, the slurring of the consonants, the confusion that signals the neurotoxin is crossing the blood-brain barrier. I give her exactly what she wants. I let my shoulders slump. I let my eyes lose focus, staring blankly at the blue cornflowers painted on the side of the bowl. Martha's favorite bowl. Martha bought this set in a little shop in Cornwall 40 years ago. She used to serve me soup in it when I came home from deployments in damp, miserable places. Her hands warm, her smile genuine. Now, her daughter-in-law uses it to serve me death. "Is it good, Elias?" Linda asks. Her voice is pitched an octave higher than her natural register, a sickeningly sweet coo that she reserves exclusively for me. I let the spoon clatter against the porcelain. I look up at her, making sure my mouth hangs open just a fraction. It's warm, Linda," I mumble, letting my tongue feel heavy against my teeth. "Tastes like the dirt in the garden." A flicker of annoyance crosses her face, quickly suppressed by her caretaker mask. "It's mushroom, Elias, your favorite. You need to keep your strength up. Dr. Vance says your nutrition is slipping." I nod slowly, letting my head bob like a broken toy. "Dr. Vance, yes. Good man. Good doctor." I pick up the spoon again, my hand shaking so violently that a drop of the poisoned soup spills onto the wooden table. I stare at the drop. "I dropped it. I'm sorry, Martha. I dropped it." Linda sighs, a long, suffering exhalation that she thinks I'm too senile to interpret. She steps forward with a damp cloth and wipes the table. "It's okay, Elias. I'll clean it. Just eat." We have a lot to talk about later. I eat the rest of the soup. Every swallow is a calculated risk, a biochemical war fought in the microscopic trenches of my vascular system. I can feel the faintest tingle in my fingertips, a ghost of the toxin trying to take hold, but the antidote crushes it. When the bowl is empty, I push it away and let my eyes droop. I'm tired, Linda. The garden, the weeds are getting tall. Go sit in the living room, Elias. I'll bring you your blanket. I stand up, making sure to stumble slightly, catching myself on the edge of the counter. I shuffle out of the kitchen, my slippers scuffing against the hardwood floor. I don't look back. I know she is watching me, calculating the half-life of the poison, wondering how many more bowls it will take before I am completely incapable of managing my own affairs. She thinks she is playing a long game. She doesn't realize the game ended before she even bought the poison. I make my way to the living room and sink into the worn leather armchair by the window. The rain is coming down harder now, drumming against the glass, blurring the lights of the estate grounds. This house sits on 4 acres of prime Pacific Northwest real estate, surrounded by ancient Douglas firs and a sprawling botanical garden that I've cultivated for 3 decades. The land alone is worth $3.5 million. The house, the antique furniture, the rare orchids in the greenhouse. It's a king's ransom, and Linda, with her mounting credit card debt and her secret lover's gambling habits, needs it now. She can't wait for nature to take its course. Nature is too slow. Nature doesn't care about interest rates. I close my eyes and let my breathing slow, mimicking the shallow, rhythmic respiration of deep sleep. I listen to the sounds of the house, the hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall, the soft padding of Linda's footsteps as she washes the floral bowl. I hear the clink of the porcelain in the sink, the rush of the water. She is meticulous. She thinks she is washing away the evidence. She doesn't understand that chemical bonds don't care about dish soap. After an hour, her footsteps retreat up the stairs. The master bedroom door clicks shut. I wait another 20 minutes, just to be sure. The house settles around me, the old timber groaning in the wind. I open my eyes. The fog of dementia vanishes, replaced by the sharp, crystalline focus of a man who spent 40 years hunting ghosts in the shadows of the Cold War. I stand up, my posture straightening, the tremor in my hands completely gone. I roll my shoulders, feeling the satisfying pop of cartilage. I walk to the back door, slip on my heavy canvas coat, and step out into the rain. The cold air hits my face, smelling of wet pine needles and ozone. I pull my collar up and walk across the damp lawn toward the greenhouse. The glass panes are streaked with rain, glowing faintly in the ambient light from the main house. I unlock the heavy oak door of the potting shed attached to the side of the greenhouse and step inside. The smell hits me immediately. It's a complex, layered scent that I have curated for years. The top notes are damp soil, peat moss, and the sharp green tang of crushed tomato leaves. But underneath that, if you know what to look for, is the faint, acrid bite of sulfur, the sweet solvent smell of acetone, and the sterile chill of purified water. This is my sanctuary. This is where the gardener dies, and the toxicologist is reborn. I lock the door behind me and slide the deadbolt into place. I walk past the racks of terracotta pots and the bags of organic fertilizer to the back wall. I reach behind a stack of burlap sacks and press my thumb against a hidden biometric scanner disguised as a knot in the wood. A soft beep sounds, and a section of the shelving unit clicks and swings outward, revealing a narrow, climate-controlled corridor. I step inside and pull the door shut. The hum of the ventilation system is a comforting, steady drone. I flick on the fluorescent lights, bathing the small laboratory in stark white light. The stainless steel counters gleam, the glass beakers, the centrifuges, the mass spectrometer, the fume hood. It's all here, paid for with a pension the government officially denies I ever earned. I strip off my wet canvas coat and hang it on a peg. I wash my hands in the deep sink, scrubbing the dirt from under my nails with a stiff bristle brush. and pumice soap. I dry them on a clean towel and pull on a pair of blue nitrile gloves. I walk over to the fume hood and turn it on. The glass sash slides up with a smooth hiss. I need to check my blood. I pull a sterile lancet from a drawer and prick my finger, squeezing a drop of dark red blood onto a glass slide. I place the slide under the digital microscope and tap the screen. The image of my red blood cells fills the monitor. I run the automated assay for acetylcholinesterase inhibition. The progress bar loads. I watch the numbers tick up. 98% enzyme activity. The antidote held. The toxin is completely neutralized and being processed out through my kidneys. I let out a slow breath. The chemistry is sound. I move to the synthesis station. I need to make another batch of the antidote. The half-life of the pralidoxime in my system is roughly 12 hours, and Linda is feeding me twice a day. I measure out the precursor chemicals with a micropipette, my hands steady, my eyes tracking the meniscus of the liquid in the volumetric flask. Chemistry is not about passion, it is about precision. It is about cause and effect. You add this to that, under these conditions, and you get this result. Human beings like to think they are complex, driven by emotion and soul. But at the end of the day, we are just bags of saline and proteins, governed by the same immutable laws of thermodynamics and molecular bonding as a rock or a star. Linda thinks she is outsmarting me. She is just a variable in an equation I solved 3 weeks ago. As the centrifuge spins, whirring with a high-pitched mechanical whine, I think about Dr. Vance. He is the one supplying the poison. Linda is just the delivery mechanism. Vance is the architect. He's a family physician, supposedly a pillar of the community, but I've seen his financial records. I pulled them, using Agdor, into a credit bureau database I still have access to. He's leveraged to the hilt. Bad investments, offshore gambling, a secret apartment in the city he pays for in cash. He needs my estate just as badly as Linda does. They think they are a team. They think their shared guilt binds them together. But shared guilt is a fragile thing. When the pressure hits, they will turn on each other, like rats in a bucket. The centrifuge beeps. I extract the purified compound, seal it in small amber glass vials, and label them with a grease pencil. I hide 3 of the vials inside a hollowed-out bag of bone meal fertilizer. I take 1 vial, slip it into my pocket, and turn off the lights. I step back out into the potting shed, lock the hidden door, and grab my heavy rusted pruning shears from the workbench. I need to maintain the illusion. I spend the next hour pruning the heirloom roses in the greenhouse, cutting away the dead wood, feeling the sharp resistance of the stems against the steel blades. The physical labor grounds me. It keeps my mind sharp, keeps the blood flowing. By the time I go back to the main house, the rain has stopped. The sky is a bruised purple, the sun setting behind the trees. I walk into the kitchen, making sure to scuff my feet, letting my shoulders slump again. Linda is at the stove cooking dinner. "You're soaked, Elias," she says, not looking up from the pan. "Go change. Dinner is in 20 minutes. "Yes, Linda," I mumble, shuffling toward the stairs. The next morning, the doorbell rings at exactly 9 o'clock. I am sitting in the living room, staring blankly at a crossword puzzle I have no intention of finishing. I have already smeared a little bit of potting soil on my cheek to enhance the disheveled look. I hear the front door open, hear Linda's overly enthusiastic greeting. "Dr. Vance, come in, come in." He's right in the living room. Dr. Arthur Vance steps into the room. He is a tall man, in his late 40s, with silvering hair at his temples and a tailored charcoal suit that costs more than my truck. He smells of expensive sandalwood cologne and the faint, sterile scent of isopropyl alcohol. He carries a leather medical bag, holding it by the handle like it's a briefcase. He smiles at me, a practiced empathetic curving of the lips that doesn't reach his cold, pale blue eyes. "Good morning, Elias," he says, his voice smooth and resonant. "How are we feeling today?" I look up at him, letting my eyes widen in a display of mild, confused recognition. "Arthur, is it Tuesday?" I thought the garden club was coming on Tuesday. Vance exchanges a brief, knowing glance with Linda. It's a micro-expression, lasting less than a tenth of a second. But I catch it. It's the look of predators sharing a joke. No, Elias, it's Thursday. I'm just here for your regular checkup. Let's take a look at you. He sets his bag on the coffee table and snaps the brass latches open. He pulls out his stethoscope, rubbing the chest piece between his hands to warm it. A thoughtful gesture designed to look caring. I unbutton my flannel shirt, exposing my chest. He places the cold metal against my skin. Take a deep breath, Elias. I inhale, but as I do, I perform a vagal maneuver. I bear down slightly, stimulating the vagus nerve to artificially lower my heart rate. I've used this technique in interrogations to fool polygraphs. Vance frowned slightly, moving the stethoscope to my back. Your heart rate is a bit sluggish today, Elias. Are you feeling fatigued? Just tired, Arthur. The weeds, they never stop growing. I let my voice trail off, adding a slight tremor to the end of the sentence. He checks my blood pressure. I relax my muscles completely, letting the cuff inflate. 110/70. Perfect for a man my age, but Vance looks dissatisfied. He wants me weak. He wants my systems failing. He pumps the cuff again, squeezing it tighter. We need to keep an eye on your circulation, Elias. Linda tells me you've been forgetting to eat. I eat, I mumble, looking down at my hands. Linda makes good soup. Linda steps into the room, carrying a tray with a glass of water and a small paper cup containing 2 white pills. He just doesn't have an appetite, Dr. Vance. I have to coax him to eat. Vance takes the paper cup from her. His fingers brush against hers. It's a subtle touch, but I see the way her thumb strokes his knuckle. These are just some new vitamins, Elias. To help with your memory and your energy. I want you to take them every morning. I look at the pills. I don't need a mass spectrometer to know what they are. They are likely a mild sedative mixed with a beta blocker, designed to keep me docile and slow my metabolism, making the neurotoxin in the soup more effective. I reach out with a shaking hand and take the cup. I put the pills in my mouth and take a sip of water, making sure to swallow loudly. I have a cheek pouch, a trick I learned in Berlin in the 80s. The pills are safely tucked between my gum and my cheek. Good man, Vance says, patting my shoulder. His hands are soft. The hands of a man who has never done a day of hard physical labor in his life. He writes something in his leather-bound notebook. I think we should increase the dosage of your current regimen, Linda. He seems to be plateauing. We need to be more aggressive if we want to manage his decline effectively. Whatever you think is best, doctor, Linda says, her voice dripping with faux deference. I just want him to be comfortable. Comfort is our primary goal, Vance says, snapping his bag shut. I'll see you next week, Elias. Try to get some rest. Thank you, Arthur, I slur, letting my head loll back against the chair. They walk to the foyer. I listen to them talking in hushed tones. I can't hear the exact words, but I hear the cadence. It's the rhythm of conspiracy. They are planning the next move. I wait until the front door closes, then I walk to the hallway and spit the dissolved pills into a tissue. I wrap them up and shove them into my pocket. I'll analyze them later, just to confirm the exact compounds, but I already know the intent. I walk out to the back porch. The morning air is crisp, smelling of wet cedar and pine. I sit on the wooden steps and pull out my whittling knife and a block of soft cedar. I start to shave the wood, the blade curling off thin, fragrant ribbons. The repetitive motion calms my nerves. It focuses my mind. People think betrayal is a sudden thing, a knife in the back in a dark alley. But it's not. Betrayal is a slow rot. It's the termite in the foundation. It's the person who smiles at you over the dinner table while they calculate the exact monetary value of your life insurance policy. And you want to know the truth about human nature? Have you ever had someone smile at you while holding a knife behind their back? How long did it take you to see the blade? Most people never see it. They look at the smile, and they believe it, right up until the steel goes in. I saw the blade 3 weeks ago, when I noticed Linda washing Martha's floral bowl 3 times in a single day. That's when I knew. That's when the gardener died and the hunter woke up. I finished whittling the piece of cedar into a small, rough bird. I brushed the shavings off my jeans and stand up. It's time to test the waters. It's time to see how desperate they really are. I walk back inside and find Linda in the study, organizing some files. I shuffle in, leaning heavily on my cane. "Linda?" I say, my voice thin and reedy. She looks up, her face instantly arranging itself into a mask of patient concern. "Yes, Elias, what is it?" "The lawyer. Mr. Henderson," he called. Or, I think he called. "About the papers." Linda freezes. Her hands stop moving over the files. Her eyes lock onto mine, searching for the level of lucidity behind my cloudy gaze. "The papers? The estate transfer? Yes. The house. The garden." He said I need to sign them. I let my brow furrow in a display of deep senile confusion. "Why do I need to sign them, Linda? This is my house. Martha's house." She walks over to me and takes my hands. Her skin is soft, heavily moisturized. "Elias, we talked about this. You're having trouble managing the bills, the taxes. It's just to make things easier for you. So you don't have to worry about the money anymore. You can just focus on your garden." I look down at our joined hands. I let the silence hang, a long, heavy pause that stretches for 5 seconds. I watch the pulse beating in her neck. It's speeding up. She is terrified. I'm going to say no. She is terrified the money is going to slip through her fingers. "I don't know," I mumble, pulling my hands away. "I need to think. My head, it's fuzzy." "Elias, please," she says, her voice tightening just a fraction, the sweet facade cracking under the pressure of greed. "Mr. Henderson is coming over on Friday to finalize it. We need to have everything ready. It's just a formality." "Friday," I repeat, letting the word hang in the air. "Friday is a long time away. I might forget by Friday." "I'll remind you," she says quickly. "I'll be right here to remind you." "Okay," I say, giving her a small, confused smile. "Okay, Linda, Friday." I turn and shuffle out of the room, leaving her standing there. I can feel her eyes burning into my back. I just pushed her. I just made her wait. The psychological pressure is building. When people are under pressure, they make mistakes. They get sloppy. They leave traces. I spend the rest of the day in the garden, turning the compost, feeling the heat of the decaying organic matter radiating through my leather gloves. I am preparing the soil for the spring planting, but in my mind, I am preparing the soil for their burial. Not a literal burial, of course. I am a man of the law, in my own way. I believe in justice. But my version of justice is cold, precise, and absolute. Night falls, bringing a thick rolling fog off the coast. The house is quiet again. Linda and Vance are in the master bedroom. I know Vance is there. I saw his silver sedan parked 2 streets over, hidden behind a row of hedges. He thinks he is being clever. He thinks the old man is too blind to notice. At 2 a.m., I get out of bed. I don't turn on the lights. I know this house better than I know my own body. I know that the 3rd floorboard in the hallway groans if you step on the left side. I know that the hinge on the linen closet squeaks if you open it past 45 degrees. I move through the dark like a shadow, my bare feet making no sound on the hardwood. I reach the door to the master bedroom. I press my ear against the wood. I hear the low murmur of their voices, the rustle of sheets. I wait for 10 minutes until the breathing evens out into the deep, rhythmic pattern of sleep. I turn the handle slowly, applying upward pressure to keep the latch from clicking. The door opens a fraction of an inch. I slip inside. The room is dark, illuminated only by the pale moonlight filtering through the sheer curtains. They are asleep in the center of the massive king-sized bed. I move to the ensuite bathroom, closing the door silently behind me. I pull a small, high-powered ultraviolet flashlight from my pajama pocket. I don't turn it on yet. I move to the vanity. Linda is meticulous about her appearance. Her makeup is arranged in perfect rows. Her perfumes are lined up by height. But I am not looking at the surface. I am looking for the anomaly. I run my fingers along the edge of the marble countertop. There is a slight seam near the back, where the marble meets the tiled backsplash. It's barely visible. I pull a thin steel dental pick from my pocket and slide it into the seam. I apply a gentle upward pressure. A small rectangular section of the marble pops up. It's a hidden compartment. Inside, resting on a bed of black velvet, is a small clear glass vial with a rubber stopper. Next to it is a stack of unused syringes and a small digital scale. This is the stash. This is the murder weapon. I pick up the vial. It's cold to the touch. I hold it up to the moonlight. The liquid inside is perfectly clear, indistinguishable from water. But I know what it is. It's a synthetic organophosphate, highly concentrated. A few drops in a bowl of soup, and a healthy man starts to forget his own name. A few more drops, and his heart stops. I click on the UV flashlight. The beam is a deep, intense purple. I shine it directly onto the glass vial. The reaction is instantaneous. The clear liquid inside the vial erupts into a violent, sickly neon green glow. It looks radioactive. It's the military-grade fluorescent tracer I synthesized in the shed and covertly injected into her supply 3 days ago. The tracer is designed to bind permanently to the lipid layers of human skin. It cannot be washed off with soap and water. It requires a specialized solvent to remove, a solvent Linda doesn't have and doesn't know exists. I shine the purple beam onto the marble countertop around the hidden compartment. Smudges. Glowing, neon green fingerprints. Linda's fingerprints. She has been handling the raw poison. I turn the light toward the bathroom door. I shine it on the brass handle. There, perfectly illuminated in the dark, is a large, glowing thumbprint. It's too big to be Linda's. The ridges are distinct, the pressure points heavy. It's Dr. Vance's thumbprint. He has been in here. He has been handling the vial. He is physically linked to the poison. I turn off the flashlight. The bathroom plunges back into darkness. The glowing green handprints fade from my vision, but the image is burned into my mind. I have the proof. I have the physical evidence that ties them both to the black market neurotoxin. I carefully place the vial back into the velvet-lined compartment and press the marble slab down until it clicks seamlessly into place. I wipe the handle of the door with my sleeve, just in case, and slip out of the bathroom. I move back out into the hallway, navigating the dark house with practiced ease. I return to my room, close the door, and sit on the edge of the bed. My heart is beating a steady, calm rhythm. There is no adrenaline spike, no rush of fear. This is the job. This is what I was trained to do. Gather the intelligence, secure the evidence, and prepare the strike. Friday is coming. The lawyer is coming. The signing is happening. They think they are walking into a victory lap. They think they are about to secure $3.5 million and a life of luxury. They don't know they are walking into a trap that has been set with the precision of a Swiss watch. I lie back on the bed and close my eyes. I can smell the faint scent of damp earth still clinging to my skin. I can feel the cold steel of the pruning shears in my memory. I am ready. Let them bring their papers. Let them bring their poison. I will bring the light, and when the darkness falls, they will see exactly what they have done. The taste of copper is the first thing that hits me when I wake up. It coats the back of my throat, a sharp, metallic tang that tells me my liver is working overtime to process the chemical war I fought in my bloodstream while I slept. I open my eyes and stare at the ceiling. The plaster is cracked in the corner, a jagged line that looks like a river delta on a map. I've been meaning to fix that crack for 3 years. Martha used to point it out every time it rained, saying the house was settling, that it was tired. I told her houses don't get tired, only the people inside them do. Now she's gone, and the crack is still there, and I am the one who is supposed to be tired. I sit up and swing my legs over the edge of the mattress. My joints pop up, a symphony of aging cartilage and dried synovial fluid. I don't mind the pain. Pain is just data. It tells me my nerve endings are firing correctly, that the neurotoxin hasn't breached the peripheral nervous system. I flex my fingers, making fists, then opening them. The tremor is gone. The antidote held through the night. I stand up, walk to the window, and pull back the heavy velvet curtains. The morning light is gray and flat, filtering through the dense canopy of the Douglas firs that border the property. The rain has stopped, but the ground is saturated. I can smell the wet earth even through the double-paned glass. It's a heavy, rich scent full of decaying leaves and microscopic life. It smells like work. I dress in my usual uniform. A faded flannel shirt, heavy canvas work pants with reinforced knees, and a pair of leather boots that have been resoled 3 times. I don't wear socks. I like to feel the stiff leather against my skin. It keeps me grounded. I grab my canvas apron from the hook by the door and head downstairs. The house is completely silent. Linda is still asleep, or at least, she's pretending to be. Dr. Vance's silver sedan is gone from the street, meaning he slipped out before dawn like a thief in the night. Cowards always prefer the dark. They think the shadows hide their sins, but shadows just make the light sharper when you finally turn it on. I walk through the kitchen, ignoring the gleaming stainless steel appliances that Linda insisted on installing last year. She said the old stove was an eyesore. I told her the old stove cooked 50 years of Thanksgiving turkeys and didn't need to look like a spaceship to do its job. She rolled her eyes and ordered the new ones on my credit card. I let her do it. It kept her happy, and a happy predator is a careless predator. I pour myself a cup of black coffee from the thermos I prepped last night and step out the back door. The air is cold and damp, biting at my cheeks. I walk across the wet grass, my boots sinking slightly into the soft loam. The botanical garden is my domain, 4 acres of meticulously curated flora, arranged not just by aesthetics but by chemical properties. The eastern quadrant is filled with alkaloid-producing plants, belladonna, foxglove, monkshood. The western quadrant is dedicated to solanaceae, deadly nightshade, jimsonweed, tomatoes. To the untrained eye, it's a beautiful, sprawling greenhouse complex. To a toxicologist, it's a pharmacy and an armory. I unlock the heavy oak door of the potting shed and step inside. The smell of peat moss and dried herbs envelops me. I lock the door, slide the deadbolt, and walk to the back wall. I press my thumb against the hidden scanner. The shelving unit swings open with a soft pneumatic hiss. I step into the lab, seal the door behind me, and turn on the overhead fluorescence. The stark white light chases away the shadows. I strip off my flannel shirt and wash my hands in the deep stainless steel sink, scrubbing them with pumice soap until the skin is raw and pink. I dry them, snap on a pair of blue nitrile gloves, and get to work. Today is about logistics. The antidote I synthesized yesterday is highly volatile. The pralidoxime chloride degrades rapidly when exposed to light and ambient temperatures. I need to stabilize it, bind it to a lipid carrier so it absorbs faster through the gastric lining when I take it orally. I move to the fume hood and pull out a bottle of purified squalene, a natural oil derived from shark liver. I measure out exactly 40 milliliters using a glass volumetric pipette. The liquid is thick, viscous, clinging to the sides of the glass. I transfer it to a round-bottom flask and place it on the magnetic stirrer. I drop in a Teflon-coated stir bar and turn on the dial. The liquid begins to spin, forming a perfect deep vortex. While the oil mixes, I boot up the ruggedized Panasonic Toughbook hidden beneath a stack of terracotta pots on the lower shelf. The machine is heavily modified, shielded against electromagnetic pulses, and runs on a custom Linux kernel I coded myself. It's not connected to the estate's Wi-Fi. It uses a burst transmission satellite uplink that bounces the signal off 3 different low-orbit weather satellites before routing it through a proxy server in Reykjavik. Untraceable. I type in my decryption key. The screen unflashes green and the custom interface loads. It's time to look at the money. Greed is a biological imperative, but desperation is a chemical reaction. When people are desperate, they leave a trail of digital exhaust. I open a secure terminal and access the back door I built into the Equifax mainframe 5 years ago. It's a ghost protocol, a tiny piece of code that piggybacks on routine credit inquiries. I type in Linda's social security number. The screen fills with data. Her credit score is a abysmal 410. I scroll through the transaction history. It's a disaster of financial mismanagement. Maxed out department store cards, unpaid medical bills, 3 different payday loans with interest rates that should be illegal. But the real story is in the hidden accounts. I run a trace on her IP address logs and find a pattern. Every Tuesday and Thursday night, she logs into an offshore sports betting site hosted in Curacao. I pull the transaction records for the betting account. She's been dropping $5,000, sometimes $10,000 a week on high-risk parlays. She's chasing losses. She's drowning in debt, and the water is rising fast. I close her file and open Dr. Arthur Vance's profile. If Linda is drowning, Vance is at the bottom of the ocean with cinder blocks tied to his ankles. On paper, he's a successful family physician with a thriving private practice, but his lifestyle is a mathematical impossibility based on his declared income. I bypass the standard credit bureaus and tap into a darker database, a ledger used by private intelligence firms to track high net worth individuals. Vance has a secret. He has a shell company registered in the Cayman Islands called Aesculapius Holdings. I drill down into the corporate filings. Aesculapius Holdings owns a luxury condo in downtown Seattle, a Porsche 911, and a substantial portfolio of high-risk crypto assets that crashed last year. He's leveraged to the hilt. I pull his bank statements. He's making massive, unexplained cash withdrawals, $10,000 here, $15,000 there, always just under the federal reporting threshold. He's paying someone off, or he's buying something that doesn't exist on paper. I sit back in my chair and watch the vortex in the flask spin. The picture is clear now. They aren't just greedy relatives looking for an early inheritance. They are financially ruined. They need my $3.5 million estate not to buy yachts and drink champagne, but to keep the wolves from tearing them apart. They are killing me to pay off their bookies and their crypto brokers. The sheer banality of it is almost insulting. They are committing murder to cover up bad math. I turn off the monitor and return to the fume hood. The squalene is ready. I carefully add the synthesized oxym reactivator to the oil, drop by drop. The mixture turns a pale, cloudy yellow. I let it stir for another 10 minutes, then transfer it into amber glass vials. I seal them with rubber stoppers and crimp the aluminum caps. I now have enough stabilized antidote to survive a month of Linda's poisoned soups. I pack the vials into a padded lockbox and hide it behind a bag of perlite. By the time I finish, it's 8:30 a.m. Time to go back to being the dying old man. I strip off the gloves, wash my hands, and step out of the lab. I lock the hidden door, grab my rusted pruning shears, and walk out into the greenhouse. The air inside is thick and humid, smelling of wet soil and the sharp, green scent of crushed tomato leaves. I spend the next 2 hours meticulously pruning the heirloom roses. I cut away the dead wood, the weak canes, the suckers draining energy from the main stem. It's methodical, brutal work. You have to hurt the plant to make it strong. You have to cut away the rot so the rest can survive. I think about Linda and Vance as the shears snap through the thick stems. Snip, snip, snip. At 11 a.m., I hear the back door open. I let my shoulders slump, let my hands shake slightly, and turn around. Linda is standing in the doorway of the greenhouse, holding a tray. On the tray is a bowl of soup, the floral porcelain bowl. Elias, she calls out, her voice dripping with that artificial sweetness. It's time for your lunch. I made you some chicken noodle today. I shuffle toward her, keeping my eyes fixed on the ground. Chicken noodle, I mumble. Martha used to make chicken noodle. She put dill in it. I know, Elias. I put dill in it too. She leads me back to the kitchen and sets the tray on the small breakfast table. She pulls out a chair and pats the seat. Sit down. Eat it while it's hot. I sit. The steam rises from the bowl, carrying the scent of chicken broth, carrots, and the faint, unmistakable bitter undertone of the organophosphate. She's increased the dosage. I can tell by the way the steam catches the light, by the slight viscosity of the broth. She's getting impatient. The financial pressure is squeezing her, and she needs me to deteriorate faster. She needs me completely incapacitated before the lawyer arrives on Friday. I pick up the spoon. My hand trembles violently, a perfectly controlled spasm. I scoop up the broth and bring it to my lips. I swallow. The liquid burns going down, not from heat, but from the chemical reaction with the mucous membranes in my throat. I take another bite, and another. I force myself to eat half the bowl before I let the spoon clatter onto the porcelain. I can't, I whisper, letting my head droop. My stomach, it hurts. Linda sighs, a sharp, irritated sound. She leans over the table, her face inches from mine. I can smell her expensive perfume, a cloying mix of jasmine and synthetic musk. Elias, you need to eat. Dr. Vance said your body needs the nutrients. If you don't eat, you'll get weak and we'll have to move you to a care facility. Is that what you want? Do you want to leave your garden? It's a threat, thinly veiled as concern. She's testing my boundaries, pushing my psychological buttons to see what's left of my cognitive function. I look up at her. I let my eyes widen in feigned terror. I let my lower lip quiver. No, I say, my voice cracking. No care facility. I want to stay here. With Martha. Then eat the soup, Elias. She pushes the bowl closer to me. I pick up the spoon again. I take 3 more bites, making sure to spill some down my chin. I wipe it away with the back of my dirty hand. I'm done, I say, pushing the bowl away. I'm tired. Linda stares at me. Her eyes are cold, calculating. She looks at the half-empty bowl, then back at my face. She's doing the math in her head. She's wondering if the dose was high enough to cause the confusion, or if I'm just being stubborn. I let the silence hang. I don't blink. I just stare at the blue cornflowers painted on the side of the bowl. I count the ticks of the grandfather clock in the hall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The lethal pause. It's a psychological weapon. Silence makes people uncomfortable. It forces them to fill the void, to reveal their own anxiety. Linda shifts her weight. Her left eye twitches slightly. The silence is eating at her. Fine. She snaps, snatching the bowl off the table. Go sit in the living room. I'll bring you your pills. I stand up slowly, leaning heavily on the edge of the table, and shuffle out of the kitchen. I made it through the meal. The antidote in my system is already binding to the new influx of neurotoxin, neutralizing it before it can cross the blood-brain barrier. But the physical toll is real. My liver is working overtime, my kidneys are flushing the dead chemical compounds, and my body is exhausted. Playing a dying man is hard work. I sit in the leather armchair by the window and watch the rain start to fall again. It's a light drizzle, misting the glass. I pull out my whittling knife and the block of cedar I started yesterday. I shave off a thin curl of wood, watching it fall to the floor. The repetitive motion calms my heart rate. Let me ask you something. When you look at the people sitting across from you at the dinner table, the people who smile at you and ask about your day, how do you know they actually see you? How do you know they aren't just looking at a bank account or a life insurance policy or a piece of real estate? We like to think that blood makes family. We like to think that love is a shield that protects us from the dark. But I've spent my life studying the things that kill us in the dark, and I can tell you, the most lethal poison isn't something you find in a lab. It's the slow, quiet realization that the person holding your hand is just waiting for your pulse to stop. Have you ever looked into the eyes of someone you trusted and seen nothing but a calculator staring back at you? It changes you. It strips away the illusion of safety and leaves you with nothing but the cold, hard math of survival. I finish whittling the cedar bird and slip it into my pocket. I need to know where Vance is getting the raw materials. A family doctor doesn't just have military-grade synthetic organophosphates sitting in his medical bag. The precursor chemicals required to synthesize this specific nerve agent are heavily restricted. You can't just buy them at a pharmacy. You need a license, a secure facility, and a very specific supply chain. If Vance is making it himself, he needs a lab. If he's buying it, he has a supplier. Either way, there is a physical location tied to the poison. I wait until 2:00 p.m. Linda goes upstairs for her afternoon nap. I slip out the back door and walk to the detached garage. I pull my heavy canvas tarp off my truck, a battered 1998 Ford F-150. The engine turns over with a rough, throaty rumble. I don't take the truck. It's too recognizable. Instead, I walk to the side of the house where Linda parks her pristine, white Lexus SUV. I kneel down in the wet mud, ignoring the cold seeping through the knees of my canvas pants. I reach up under the rear bumper, my fingers feeling along the metal frame until I find the magnetic GPS tracker I planted there 3 days ago. I pull out my phone and open the tracking app. The dot is stationary, right where I am. I get into my truck and drive out of the estate, taking the long, winding dirt road that leads to the main highway. I keep my speed under the limit, driving like an old man who is afraid of getting a ticket. I head toward the city, keeping an eye on the traffic. I'm not following them today. I'm setting a perimeter. I need to know Vance's routine. I park the truck in a public lot near the medical center where Vance's clinic is located. I pull a faded baseball cap low over my eyes and put on a pair of thick, wire-rimmed glasses. I grab a worn leather satchel and walk toward the clinic. It's a sleek, modern building with glass walls and a water feature in the lobby. It screams money and prestige. I sit on a bench across the street, pulling a newspaper from my satchel and pretending to read it. At 4:30 p.m., Vance walks out of the clinic. He's wearing his charcoal suit, carrying his leather medical bag. He walks to his silver sedan, gets in, and pulls out into the traffic. I don't follow him. I just watch him go, noting the direction he heads, north, toward the industrial district. I walk back to my truck and start the engine. I drive north, keeping a safe distance, relying on the GPS tracker on Linda's car to ping Vance's phone, assuming they are together or he's carrying his secondary device. The tracker app shows his dot moving steadily along the interstate. He exits at mile marker 42, heading into a sprawling, run-down industrial park. This area used to be full of manufacturing plants, but most of them closed down in the 90s. Now it's a graveyard of corrugated steel warehouses and cracked asphalt lots. I pull my truck into the shadow of an abandoned textile mill and kill the engine. I pull out a pair of high-powered image stabilizing binoculars from the satchel. The rain is coming down harder now, blurring the view, but the optics cut through the gloom. I scan the lots. 2 blocks down, Vance's silver sedan is parked outside a large, unmarked warehouse with a roll-up loading dock. The building looks completely abandoned. The windows are painted black, and there's no signage on the door. But there's a fresh set of tire tracks in the mud leading to the side entrance, and a faint glow of light coming from a high ventilation window. I watch for 20 minutes. The rain drums a steady, hypnotic rhythm on the roof of my truck. My hands are cold, but my mind is perfectly clear. Finally, the side door of the warehouse opens. Vance steps out. He's not alone. He's talking to a man in a heavy canvas jacket. The man is holding a small insulated cooler. Vance hands the man a thick manila envelope. The man checks the contents, nods, and hands over the cooler. Vance gets back into his car and drives away. I don't follow Vance. I keep the binoculars trained on the warehouse. The man in the canvas jacket goes back inside and locks the door. I've got the location. I've got the supplier. This is the node in the network. This is where the poison comes from. I put the binoculars down and start the truck. I drive back to the estate in silence, the wipers slapping back and forth across the windshield. The pieces of the puzzle are falling into place. Vance is buying black market neurotoxins from a supplier in the industrial district. He's giving them to Linda to feed to me. It's a clean, professional murder plot, disguised as natural cognitive decline. But as I pull into the driveway and park the truck in the garage, a cold, hard knot forms in my stomach, a suspicion that I've been pushing to the back of my mind for weeks. If Vance has access to this specific, highly restricted synthetic organophosphate, and if he's been supplying it to Linda to kill me, then how long has he had this supply chain established? Martha died 6 months ago. The official cause of death was a sudden, massive myocardial infarction, a heart attack. She was 72. She had mild hypertension, but she was active. She worked in the garden every day. She was strong. The coroner didn't order a full toxicology screen because there were no signs of foul play, no petechial hemorrhaging, no unusual odors. It was a closed casket funeral. I buried her in the family plot on the hill overlooking the botanical garden. But the symptoms of a massive overdose of this specific organophosphate, bradycardia, respiratory failure, sudden cardiac arrest. It perfectly mimics a massive heart attack. I walk into the house, shaking the rain from my coat. Linda is in the kitchen, chopping vegetables. She doesn't look up when I come in. "Where have you been, Elias?" she asks, her tone sharp. "You've been gone for hours." I was getting worried. "Driving," I mumble, leaning on my cane. "Just driving, looking at the trees." "Well, don't wander off again. Dr. Vance is coming over tomorrow morning to check your vitals before the lawyer arrives on Friday. You need to rest." "Tomorrow," I say, letting my voice trail off. "Okay." I shuffle into the living room and sit in my chair. I close my eyes, but I don't sleep. My mind is racing, connecting the dots, running the probabilities. If Vance killed Martha, it wasn't just about the money. It was about clearing the path. Martha controlled the trust. As long as she was alive, the estate was locked down. I was just the secondary beneficiary. To get to the money, they had to remove her first. And then, when I didn't die fast enough of a broken heart, they started poisoning me too. It's a theory, a highly probable, mathematically sound theory. But in my line of work, a theory is worthless without empirical proof. You can't take a theory to the police. You can't take a theory to a judge. If I accuse a respected local physician and my own daughter-in-law of murdering my wife based on a hunch and a GPS tracker, they'll lock me in a psychiatric ward and throw away the key. Linda will play the grieving, exhausted caretaker, and Vance will testify that I'm suffering from severe paranoid delusions brought on by advanced dementia. They'll use my own trap against me. I need proof. Hard, undeniable physical proof. I wait until the house is completely dark and silent. I slip out of bed and make my way to the potting shed. I lock the door, enter the lab, and boot up the tough book. The glow of the screen illuminates my face in the dark room. I open a secure, encrypted messaging application. I have one contact left in the old world, a man we called Control. He handles the off-the-books logistics for retired operatives who still have a use for their particular set of skills. I type it a message. Target, Martha Thorne. Official COD, myocardial infarction. Suspect foul play via synthetic organophosphate. Need retroactive analysis. I hit send. The message encrypts and bounces through the satellite network. I sit back and wait. The hum of the ventilation system is the only sound in the room. 10 minutes pass. Then 20. Finally, a reply pops up on the screen. Elias. It's been a while. You're chasing ghosts. The body is in the ground. Tissue degradation makes toxicology a nightmare. After 6 months, I type back. Not the body. The biopsy slides. She had a routine dermatological excision 3 weeks before she died. The pathology lab in Seattle keeps the paraffin-embedded tissue blocks for 7 years. I need you to pull the block. Run it through mass spectrometry. Look for the specific ester markers of the VX variant compound. The cursor blinks on the screen. I can almost feel Control sighing on the other end of the connection. Pulling medical records and physical evidence from a civilian pathology lab without a warrant requires a level of digital intrusion that violates about a dozen federal laws. But Control doesn't care about federal laws. He cares about results. Give me 12 hours to the reply comes. I have a guy at the lab. He'll pull the block, slice it, and run it through the GCMS. If the compound is in the tissue matrix, it'll show up. But Elias, if this comes back positive, you're opening a door you can't close. This isn't just a financial dispute anymore. This is a capital murder investigation, PSD. I know. I type back. Just get it done. I close the laptop and turn off the monitor. The lab plunges back into darkness. I sit there in the silence, listening to the rain hit the glass roof of the greenhouse. The physical evidence is coming. The mathematical proof of Martha's murder is 12 hours away. I spend the rest of the night prepping the lab for the final phase. I calibrate the mass spectrometer. I clean the glassware. I prepare the solvent washes. I need to be ready to verify Control's findings the second the data packet arrives. I can't trust a third-party lab completely. I need to see the raw chromatograms myself. I need to see the peaks and valleys of the chemical graph with my own eyes. By 5 a.m., I am exhausted. My eyes burn, and my hands have a slight, natural tremor that has nothing to do with acting. I wash my face in the deep sink, dry it with a paper towel, and step out of the lab. I lock the hidden door and walk back to the main house. The sky is just starting to turn a bruised purple in the east. I go to my room, take off my boots, and lie down on top of the covers. I don't sleep. I just stare at the ceiling, watching the crack in the plaster catch the early morning light. Today is the day before the signing. Today, Vance comes for his final checkup. Today, Linda will push the final dose of poison. And today, the data packet will arrive. At 8 a.m., I get up and put on my gardener's mask. I slump my shoulders, I let my hands shake, and I walk downstairs. Linda is in the kitchen, drinking coffee. She looks tired. The bags under her eyes are heavy, her makeup slightly smeared. The pressure is getting to her. The wolves are howling at her door, and she needs my signature to make them stop. "Morning, Elias," she says, not looking at me. "Sit down." I made oatmeal. I sit at the table. She places a bowl of oatmeal in front of me. I look at it. It's thick, gray, and steaming. I pick up the spoon and take a bite. It tastes like ash and betrayal. I eat it slowly, letting my hand tremble, letting my mind wander to the hidden lab in the shed, to the encrypted server in Reykjavik, to the paraffin block sitting in a pathology lab across town. At 10 a.m., the doorbell rings. Linda jumps, spilling a drop of coffee on the counter. She wipes it up frantically, takes a deep breath, and walks to the front door. I hear her put on her sweet, high-pitched voice. "Dr. Vance, come in, please. He's in the living room." Vance walks in. He looks worse than Linda. His eyes are bloodshot. His tie is slightly crooked. He's running on adrenaline and fear. He sets his bag on the coffee table and pulls out his stethoscope. "Good morning, Elias," he says, his voice lacking its usual smooth resonance. "Let's get this over with. I have a busy day at the clinic." I unbutton my shirt. He places the cold metal against my chest. I perform the vagal maneuver again, slowing my heart rate. He frowns, moving the stethoscope around. "Your heart is very sluggish today, Elias. Very weak." "I feel weak, Arthur," I mumble, letting my head loll back. I feel like, unaware, Vance exchanges a look with Linda. It's a look of pure, unadulterated triumph. They think they've won. They think the poison has finally broken my heart. "It's the natural progression of the disease, Elias," Vance says, his voice dripping with fake sympathy. "Your body is just shutting down. But don't worry. Tomorrow, when you sign the papers, Linda will take over all the burdens. You can just rest." He packs up his bag and stands up. "I'll see you tomorrow, Elias. Try to have a good night's sleep. You'll need your strength for the lawyer." They walk to the foyer. I listen to them whispering. Is he going to be coherent enough to sign? Linda hisses. He's barely there, Vance whispers back. Just put the pen in his hand and guide it. The lawyer won't look too closely. He just wants his fee. The door closes. I am alone in the house. I wait exactly 1 hour. Then, I walk out to the shed. I lock the door, enter the lab, and boot up the tough book. The screen glows in the dim light. I open the secure messaging app. There is a new message from Control. Data packet attached. Elias, I'm sorry, my breath catches in my throat. I click the attachment. A compressed file downloads to the desktop. I extract it. Inside is a single PDF document and a folder of raw chromatogram images. I open the PDF first. It's the official pathology report from the Black Site lab. I scroll down to the conclusion section. The words are clinical, sterile, and utterly devastating. Analysis of profin-embedded tissue block, dermatological excision, patient, Martha Thorne. Gas chromatography mass spectrometry reveals high concentrations of synthetic organophosphate metabolites, specifically diethyl phosphate and thiodiclol, consistent with chronic low-dose exposure to a VX variant nerve agent over a period of no less than 4 months prior to death. Conclusion. Cause of death is inconsistent with myocardial infarction. Toxicological poisoning is the primary cause of systemic failure. I let the silence hang in the lab. I don't move. I don't breathe. I just stare at the words on the screen. 4 months. They poisoned her for 4 months. Every meal, every cup of tea, every glass of wine. They sat across from her at the dinner table and watched her slowly die, smiling and asking her to pass the salt. They murdered my wife. They murdered Martha. I close my eyes. I don't feel rage. Rage is hot, messy, and blind. What I feel is cold. Absolute sub-zero cold. It's the temperature of liquid nitrogen. It's the temperature of a vacuum. The grief is there, a heavy, crushing weight in my chest, but it is instantly encased in ice. It is preserved. It is weaponized. I open the folder of raw chromatograms. I need to see the peaks. I click on the first image. The graph loads on the screen. There it is, a massive, undeniable spike at the exact retention time for the VX variant metabolite. It's not a ghost in the machine. It's not a statistical anomaly. It's hard, empirical proof. They killed her. I reach out and touch the screen, my finger tracing the sharp peak of the graph. My hand is perfectly steady. The tremor is gone. The gardener is dead. The senile old man is dead. There is only the toxicologist left. And the toxicologist has a job to do. I close the laptop. I stand up and walk over to the workbench. I pick up the heavy, rusted pruning shears. The steel is cold and solid in my hand. I squeeze the handles, feeling the sharp blades bite together with a satisfying metallic click. Tomorrow is Friday. The lawyer is coming. The papers are waiting. Linda and Vance think they are walking into a victory lap. They think they are about to inherit the earth. They don't know that the earth is about to open up and swallow them whole. I walk over to the cabinet and pull out the high-powered ultraviolet flashlight. I check the batteries. I slide it into the deep pocket of my canvas apron. The trap is set. The evidence is secured. The moral event horizon has been crossed, and there is no going back. Tomorrow, I will bring the light, and they will burn in it. The morning of the signing arrives with the heavy, suffocating weight of a low-pressure system stalling over the coast. The sky is the color of bruised iron, and the rain isn't falling so much as it is hanging in the air, a fine, freezing mist that coats the windows of the estate in a slick, weeping film. I wake up before the alarm, my body pulling me from sleep, with the sharp chemical ache of a liver that has been running a marathon all night. The taste of copper is back, thicker this morning, coating the back of my tongue like a layer of old pennies. I sit up, swing my legs over the edge of the mattress, and press my bare feet against the cold hardwood floor. The shock of the temperature grounds me. I flex my hands. The joints pop, a dry, cracking sound in the quiet room, but the fingers are steady. The tremor is entirely gone. The stabilized oxime reactivator I synthesized yesterday did its job. It bound to the lipid carriers, crossed the gastric lining, and flooded my bloodstream just in time to neutralize the nighttime scent of the neurotoxin that slipped into my evening tea. I stand up and walk to the window, pulling back the heavy velvet drapes. The botanical garden is shrouded in the gray mist. The glass panes of the greenhouse are opaque with condensation. It looks like a ghost town. It looks like a graveyard. I press my forehead against the cold glass, letting the chill seep into my skin. Today is the day. The final variable in the equation is about to be introduced. I dress in my usual uniform, but today, I add a layer. Underneath the faded flannel shirt, I wear a thin, moisture-wicking compression shirt. Over the flannel, I put on my heavy canvas work jacket. In the deep, reinforced pockets of the jacket, I place my tools. On the left side, a small pressurized aluminum canister no larger than a travel-sized perfume bottle. It's filled with a highly concentrated, synthesized oleoresin capsicum extract I pulled from the ghost peppers in the western quadrant of the greenhouse, suspended in a fast-evaporating alcohol base. It's not standard police-issue pepper spray. It's a localized, weaponized aerosol that will instantly shut down the respiratory system and blind a target for at least 20 minutes. On the right side, I placed a high-powered ultra flashlight, its heavy steel casing cold against my knuckles. Finally, I slip the folded, printed copy of the retroactive pathology report into the inner breast pocket of the jacket, right over my heart. The paper is crisp, the ink sharp. It feels like a physical weight against my chest. I walk downstairs. The house is already awake. I can smell the rich, heavy aroma of roasting garlic and rosemary drifting from the kitchen. Linda is cooking. She's making a show of it, preparing a lavish lunch for the lawyer. She wants to project the image of the devoted, doting daughter-in-law who spares no expense for her declining father-in-law. I walk into the kitchen, making sure to drag my left slipper slightly against the floorboards to create the illusion of a dragging, weakened gait. Linda is at the stove, stirring a massive pot. She's wearing a pristine cream-colored cashmere sweater and a string of pearls. She looks like a woman who is about to inherit $3.5 million. She turns and smiles at me, a bright, brittle expression that doesn't reach her eyes. "Good morning, Elias," she says, her voice pitched to that sickeningly sweet register. "I'm making a pot roast for lunch. Mr. Henderson will be here at noon, and I wanted to make sure we had a nice, warm meal ready for him. You like pot roast, don't you?" I stare at her. I look at the string of pearls resting against her collarbone. Martha wore those pearls on our 40th anniversary. I bought them for her in a small jeweler's shop in Kyoto. Linda asked for them a week after the funeral, claiming they were the only thing she had left of her, beloved mother-in-law. I let her have them. I wanted to see how long it would take for her to pawn them. I already checked the online listings. They aren't for sale yet, which means she's holding on to them for the country club parties she plans to throw once the estate clears probate. "Pot roast," I mumble, letting my jaw hang slack. Martha made pot roast. She put carrots in it. "I put carrots in it too, Elias," Linda says, turning back to the stove. "Go sit in the living room. I'll bring you your morning pills and some juice." I shuffle into the living room and sink into the leather armchair. I don't look at the crossword puzzle today. I look at the ceiling. Specifically, I look at the massive antique crystal chandelier hanging above the dining table in the adjacent room. The dining room is open concept, separated from the living room by a wide archway. I spent 3 hours last night, under the cover of darkness, rewiring that chandelier. I bypassed the standard dimmer switch and installed a remote-controlled, high-amperage relay tied directly to the main breaker panel in the basement. I also swapped out 4 of the decorative low-wattage bulbs in the upper tier of the fixture with custom-built, high-intensity ultraviolet LED emitters. They look like standard frosted glass bulbs to the naked eye, but when I trigger the relay, they will flood the dining room with 365 nanometer UV light, completely invisible until they hit the fluorescent tracer. I sit in the chair and wait. I listen to the sounds of the house, the clinking of pots, the hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the grandfather clock. I run the calculations in my head. The lawyer, Arthur Henderson, is a senior partner at a mid-tier estate planning firm. He's a cynic. He's seen every variation of family greed, every contested will, every bitter dispute over silverware and antique rugs. He doesn't care about the truth. He cares about the paperwork. He cares that the signatures are notarized and that his retainer fee is cleared. He is a mechanical component in Linda's machine. He will sign off on whatever is put in front of him, as long as the legal formalities are met. That is his blind spot. He assumes the old man in the chair is legally incompetent, heavily medicated, and easily guided. He doesn't know that the old man is the one holding the detonator. At 11:45 a.m., the doorbell rings. Linda drops a wooden spoon on the counter, takes a deep breath, and smooths her sweater. She walks to the front door and opens it. "Mr. Henderson, come in, please, out of the rain." Arthur Henderson steps into the foyer. He's a man in his late 50s, with thinning gray hair combed carefully over a sun-spotted scalp. He's wearing a charcoal suit that fits poorly across the shoulders, and he's carrying a scuffed leather briefcase. He smells of stale tobacco, damp wool, and aggressive peppermint antacids. He shakes his umbrella, sending a spray of water onto the hardwood floor, and steps inside. "Linda," he says, his voice a gravelly baritone. "Miserable weather out there. How is our patient today?" "He's having a slow morning," Linda says, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "But he's lucid enough. Dr. Vance gave him a clean bill of health yesterday. Just a bit of cognitive fatigue. He knows you're coming." "Good. Let's get this done before he takes a nap," Henderson says, walking into the living room. He stops when he sees me. He puts on a tight, professional smile. "Good morning, Elias. It's good to see you." I look up at him, letting my eyes widen slightly, feigning a slow, confused recognition. "Arthur, is it time for the garden club?" Henderson's smile tightens further. He exchanges a glance with Linda. "No, Elias. I'm your lawyer. We're going to sign some papers today to help Linda take care of the house. Remember we talked about this?" "Papers," I mumble, looking down at my calloused hands. "The house. Martha's house." "Yes, Elias. Martha's house," Linda says, stepping forward and placing a hand on my shoulder. Her grip is firm, almost bruising. "It's just to make things easier. So you don't have to worry about the taxes and the maintenance anymore." Before I can respond, the front door opens again. I hear heavy, wet footsteps on the hardwood. Dr. Vance walks in, but he isn't alone. Trailing behind him is a man who looks like he was carved out of cheap granite. He's massive, easily 6'4", with a thick neck, a shaved head, and a canvas jacket that strains across his shoulders. He smells of cheap body spray, damp leather, and the faint, sterile tang of latex gloves. This is the variable I didn't anticipate, or rather, it's the variable I hoped for. Vance is nervous. He knows I've been stubborn in the past, and he knows the financial wolves are howling at the door. He brought muscle. "Linda, Mr. Henderson," Vance says, shaking the rain from his coat. "I thought I'd stop by to monitor Elias's vitals during the signing just to ensure he doesn't get overly stressed. This is KL. He's an orderly from the clinic. He's here to assist if Elias needs to be moved or supported." Henderson looks at KL, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Lawyers don't like muscle in the room. It implies coercion, which can invalidate a contract. Is that really necessary, Arthur? If he's competent to sign, he doesn't need an orderly. It's purely a medical precaution," Vance says smoothly, though his left eye twitches. "Elias has a history of sudden agitation when he gets confused. KL is just here to ensure everyone's safety." I look at KL. He's standing by the archway leading to the dining room, his arms crossed over his massive chest. He's chewing a piece of gum, staring at me with dead, bored eyes. He thinks I'm just a drooling, broken-down old man. He thinks this is going to be an easy payday. He doesn't know that the human body, no matter how large, is just a network of electrical impulses and chemical receptors. And I know exactly which receptors to shut down. "All right," Henderson says, adjusting his glasses. "Let's move to the dining table. I have the documents ready." Linda guides me by the elbow, her grip tight, steering me toward the dining room. Kale falls in step behind us, his heavy boots thudding against the floorboards. We sit at the long mahogany dining table. Henderson sits at the head, opening his briefcase and pulling out a thick stack of legal documents, bound in blue backing. Linda sits to my right. Vance sits to my left. Kale stands by the door, blocking the exit. The trap is fully enclosed. I'll go get the lunch, Linda says, standing up. I'll bring the soup out first to warm Elias's stomach. She walks into the kitchen. I sit perfectly still, my hands resting in my lap, hidden beneath the edge of the table. I focus on my breathing. Slow, deep inhales through the nose, expanding the diaphragm. Slow exhales through the mouth. I am lowering my heart rate. I am cooling my core temperature. I am preparing the biological machine for the exertion to come. Linda returns a few minutes later, carrying a tray. On the tray is the floral porcelain bowl. The steam rises from the thick, creamy soup, carrying the scent of roasted garlic, thyme, and the faint, bitter, metallic tang of the synthetic organophosphate. She sets the bowl in front of me, along with a heavy silver spoon. "Eat up, Elias," she coos, leaning in close. Her perfume is suffocating. "It's your favorite, cream of mushroom. It will give you strength for the signing." I looked at the soup. I look at the blue cornflowers painted on the porcelain. Martha used to trace the petals with her thumb when she was thinking. I pick up the silver spoon. My hand is trembling violently, a perfectly orchestrated spasm that rattles the spoon against the side of the bowl with a sharp, rhythmic clinking. I scoop up a generous amount of the poisoned broth. I bring it to my lips. I swallow. The liquid is hot. It burns the mucous membranes of my throat. I can feel the immediate microscopic chemical reaction as the neurotoxin hits my system, trying to bind to the acetylcholinesterase enzymes. But the stabilized oxime reactivator is already there, a microscopic army waiting in the trenches of my bloodstream. The toxin hits the enzymes and is instantly neutralized, flushed out, rendered inert. I take another bite. And another. I eat half the bowl, making sure to spill a few drops down my chin, wiping them away with a dirty, trembling hand. "That's a good boy," Linda says, her voice dripping with saccharine approval. She looks at Henderson. "He's having a very good day. Very compliant." Henderson nods, uncapping a heavy, gold-plated fountain pen. "Excellent. Let's begin." "Elias, I'm going to read through the primary clauses of the durable power of attorney and the property transfer deed. I need you to listen carefully. If you understand and agree, you will sign at the bottom of each page." He clears his throat and begins to read. His voice is a dry, monotone drone, stripping the romance and the history out of the estate and reducing it to cold, legalistic jargon. Clause 1. The grantor, Elias Thorne, hereby irrevocably transfers, assigns, and conveys all rights, title, and interest in the real property located at 442 Blackwood Lane, including all structures, botanical fixtures, and appurtenances thereto. To the grantee, Linda the words. I listen to the rain drumming against the window panes. I watch Vance. He's tapping his foot nervously under the table. I watch Kale. He's shifting his weight, looking at his watch. They are in a rush. They want the ink on the paper before my lucidity fades. Clause 4. The grantor acknowledges that due to advanced cognitive decline, the grantee shall assume full fiduciary control over all liquid assets, investment portfolios, and banking accounts associated with the grantor's name, effective immediately upon execution of this document. They aren't just taking the house, they are taking everything. The pensions, the savings, the hidden offshore accounts I set up decades ago. They are stripping the carcass clean. I let my head droop, letting my eyes lose focus, staring blankly at the mahogany grain of the table. I let my mouth hang open slightly. I am playing the ghost they want me to be. Have you ever sat in a room and listened to people divide up your life while you are still breathing? It's a strange, hollow feeling. It's like watching someone pack up your house while you're still sitting in the living room chair. They don't see you. They only see the inventory. They look at your hands and see a signature. They look at your chest and see a heartbeat that is inconveniently refusing to stop. When you realize that your existence is nothing more than an obstacle to someone else's payday, the grief stops. The sadness evaporates. What replaces it is a cold, crystalline clarity. You realize that the social contract is a myth. You realize that the only law that matters is the law of cause and effect. You give them the poison. They give you the signature. But what happens when the poison doesn't work? What happens when the inventory stands up and fights back? Henderson finishes reading. He slides the first document across the table, turning it so it faces me. He places the gold pen on top of the signature line. All right, Elias, if you understand, just sign right here on the line. Linda, you can guide his hand if he's struggling. Linda leans in, her shoulder pressing against mine. She reaches out and wraps her soft, manicured fingers around my rough, calloused hand, gripping the pen. Okay, Elias, just a little scribble, right on the line. I don't move. I let my hand go completely limp, a dead weight in her grip. Elias, she whispers, her voice tightening. The sweet facade cracking just a fraction. Sign the paper, we talked about this. I slowly turn my head and look at her. I let the fog clear from my eyes. I stop the tremor in my hand. I pull my hand out of her grip, smoothly, deliberately, and set the pen down on the table. The clatter of the heavy gold pen against the mahogany is loud in the quiet room. I sit up straight. I roll my shoulders back, feeling the satisfying pop of my spine. I look at Henderson. I look at Vance, and I look at Cale. I'm not signing it, I say. My voice is different. The reedy, trembling slur is gone. It is deep, resonant, and perfectly steady. It is the voice of a man who has given orders in dark rooms and watched governments fall. The silence in the room is absolute. It is a physical thing, heavy and suffocating. Henderson stops breathing. Linda freezes, her hand still hovering in the air where my hand used to be. Vance's foot stops tapping. Lethal pause. I let the silence hang. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I watch the confusion in their eyes morph into shock and then, rapidly, into panic. Elias? Linda stammers, her voice pitching up a nervous, brittle sound. What are you doing? Stop joking. You're confused. The medication is making you confused. I am not confused, Linda, I say, keeping my voice perfectly level. And I am not medicated. I haven't been medicated for 3 weeks. The pills Dr. Vance gave me are currently dissolved in a potted fern in the greenhouse. And the soup you just fed me? The one laced with 40 milligrams of a synthetic VX variant organophosphate? I synthesized a lipid-bound oxime reactivator in my potting shed. My blood serum is currently at 98% enzyme activity. The poison didn't work. Henderson slowly pulls his hands away from the table, his eyes darting between me and Linda. Mr. Thorne, I don't understand what is happening here. Linda, you said he was suffering from advanced dementia. This man is clearly lucid. He's having a psychotic break. Vance shouts, standing up so fast his chair tips backward and crashes onto the floor. It's a known symptom of the late stages. Severe paranoid delusions. He doesn't know what he's saying. Sit down, Arthur, I say, not raising my voice, but projecting it with the kind of authority that makes people instinctively obey. If you stand up again, I will break your kneecaps with the pruning shears in my left pocket. Vance freezes, his eyes wide, staring at the bulge in my canvas jacket. He slowly lowers himself back into his chair, his hands trembling. Cale, Vance hisses, looking at the orderly. He's agitated. He's a danger to himself and others. Restrain him. Force the pen to his hand. Cale pushes off the wall. He cracks his neck, a loud popping sound, and takes 2 heavy steps toward the table. He reaches into his jacket and pulls out a pair of heavy, zip-tie flex cuffs. He thinks this is going to be easy. He thinks I'm just a frail 70-year-old man who talks too much. I don't stand up. I don't back away. I wait until he is exactly 2 feet away, reaching for my left wrist. In one fluid, practiced motion, my right hand drops into my pocket, pulls the aluminum canister, and flicks the safety cap off with my thumb. I thrust my hand upward, aiming directly at Cale's face, and press the actuator. The pressurized canister hisses, expelling a concentrated, microfine mist of the synthesized oleoresin capsicum extract. It hits Cale squarely in the eyes, the nose, and the open mouth. The reaction is instantaneous and catastrophic. The capsaicin binds to the TRPV1 receptors in his mucous membranes, sending a massive, overwhelming pain signal to his brain. It feels like someone has poured liquid fire into his eyes and down his throat. Kale lets out a guttural, choking scream, dropping the flex cuffs and clawing frantically at his face. His respiratory system instantly spasms, shutting down his airway. He stumbles backward, crashing into the dining room hutch, sending crystal glasses shattering onto the floor. He collapses to his knees, gagging, blind, and completely incapacitated. Linda screams, a high piercing sound, and scrambles backward, her chair scraping violently against the wood. Henderson is pressed flat against the wall, his face pale, his briefcase forgotten on the table. I stand up. I reach into my right pocket and pull out the small black remote control for the chandelier relay. I look at Linda. Her face is contorted in terror, her pristine cashmere sweater stained with the soup she spilled when she jumped. "You wanted the estate, Linda," I say, my voice cutting through the sound of Kale's choking. "You wanted the house, you wanted the money, but you forgot one thing. You forgot who built the house." I press the button on the remote. The main power to the dining room cuts out with a heavy, mechanical clunk from the basement breaker. The room plunges into absolute, pitch-black darkness. The only light comes from the gray, weeping sky outside the windows, which is entirely blocked by the heavy velvet drapes. Linda whimpers in the dark. "Elias? Elias, please, turn the lights on. I'm scared," I say. I press the second button. On the remote, the custom-built UV LED emitters in the chandelier flare to life. They don't cast a visible beam of light. They flood the room with intense, invisible 365 nanometer ultraviolet radiation. But to the human eye, the room remains dark, except for one thing. The chemical tracer. I look at Linda. Her hands, raised in front of her face in terror, are glowing. They are emitting a violent, sickly, neon green luminescence. The fluorescent marker I spiked into her poison stash has bonded permanently to the lipid layers of her skin. It is glowing on her palms, her fingers, her cuticles. It looks like she has dipped her hands in radioactive acid. I look at Vance. He is sitting in his chair, his hands gripping the edge of the table. His hands are glowing just as brightly. The neon green light illuminates his terrified face from below, casting grotesque, skeletal shadows across his features. He handled the raw vial. He handled the syringes. The proof is painted on his skin in glowing, undeniable ink. "What is that?" Henderson whispers from the wall, his voice trembling. "What is on their hands?" "It's a military-grade fluorescent tracer," I say, walking slowly around the table. My boots crunch on the broken crystal glasses. It binds permanently to human skin oils. It cannot be washed off with soap. It cannot be scrubbed off with bleach. It requires a specialized chemical solvent to remove, a solvent that Linda doesn't have, and a solvent that Dr. Vance doesn't know exists. I stop behind Linda's chair. I lean down, my face inches from her ear. I can smell her fear, a sharp, acidic scent cutting through her expensive perfume. "3 days ago, I found your hidden stash in the bathroom vanity," I whisper, my voice low and cold. "I injected the tracer directly into the vial of synthetic organophosphate you've been feeding me. Every time you handled the poison, every time you loaded the syringe, every time you stirred it into my soup, you were painting your hands with a beacon that screams murder to anyone holding a black light." Linda starts to sob, a ragged, ugly sound. "No, no, no. It's not what it looks like. Elias, please, you're sick. You're hallucinating." "I'm not hallucinating, Linda," I say, standing up and walking over to Vance. He is pressed back into his chair, his glowing hands held up as if to ward me off, and I'm not sick. But Martha was. I reach into my inner breast pocket and pull out the folded pathology report. I unfold it, the crisp paper loud in the dark room, and slap it down on the table in front of Henderson. The UV light catches the black ink, making the text stark and legible. "Read it, Arthur," I command. "Read the conclusion." Henderson fumbles for his glasses, his hands shaking violently. He leans over the table, squinting at the document in the eerie green glow. He reads silently for a few seconds. I watch his face. I watch the professional detachment shatter. I watch the realization hit him like a physical blow. His mouth opens, but no sound comes out. He looks up at Linda, his eyes wide with horror. It's a retroactive toxicology report. Henderson stammers, his voice cracking. From a black site lab. It says Martha Thorne's tissue samples show massive concentrations of VX variant metabolites. It says she didn't die of a heart attack. It says she was poisoned, chronically, over 4 months. Lethal pause. I let the silence hang. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The weight of the words settles over the room, heavy and suffocating. The grandfather clock in the hall ticks loudly. Tick, tick, tick. 4 months, I say, my voice echoing slightly in the dark room. For 4 months sat across from my wife at this very table. You watched her eat. You watched her drink. You watched her slowly lose her strength. Watched her lose her breath. Watched her heart fail. And you smiled. You asked her to pass the salt. You held her hand while she died. And then you waited 6 months for me to follow her. And when I didn't die fast enough of a broken heart, you started feeding me the exact same poison in her favorite floral bowl. Vance tries to stand up, his face contorted in rage and panic. This is illegal. You broke into my medical records. You fabricated this. Henderson, call the police. This man is a lunatic. I didn't break into your records, Arthur, I say. Stepping closer to him, the UV light casting long shadows across my face. I pulled the financial records for your shell company in the Cayman Islands, Aesculapius Holdings. I tracked the massive cash withdrawals you made just under the federal reporting threshold, and I tracked your silver sedan to a warehouse in the industrial district where you buy black market nerve agents from a supplier named KL. I gesture to the massive man still writhing and choking on the floor by the hutch. The same KL you brought here to force a dying man to sign away his estate. Henderson is backing away toward the archway, his briefcase clutched to his chest like a shield. I need to leave. I am not a party to this. I am an officer of the court. I need to call the authorities. You don't need to call them, Arthur, I say, reaching into my left pocket and pulling out my cell phone. I tap the screen, bringing up the call log. I called them 2 hours ago. I sent the detective in charge of the financial crimes unit, the GPS logs, the bank statements, and the pathology report. I told them to wait outside the gate until I gave the signal. As if on cue, the heavy rhythmic thumping of helicopter rotors vibrates through the floorboards. The sound is deafening, shaking the crystal prisms in the chandelier. Red and blue lights flash violently through the gaps in the heavy velvet drapes, painting the dark room in strobing, chaotic colors. The front door is kicked open with a massive, splintering crash. Heavy boots thunder down the hallway. Police, nobody move. Hands where I can see them. 4 tactical officers in full gear storm into the dining room, their assault rifles raised, their tactical flashlights cutting through the darkness, overpowering the UV emitters. The bright white beams hit Linda and Vance, illuminating their terrified faces and the glowing green paint on their hands. Get on the ground. Now, the lead officer shouts. Vance drops to his knees, putting his glowing hands behind his head, sobbing openly. She made me do it. She planned it. I just applied the chemicals. She's the one who fed it to him. Linda screams, a feral, animalistic sound, and lunges at Vance, clawing at his face. You liar! You said it was undetectable. You said it was safe. The officers swarm them, slamming them face first onto the mahogany table, zip-tying their wrists. The plastic cuffs bite into their skin, right over the glowing green tracer. Kale is dragged out from behind the hutch, still coughing and blinded, and hauled to his feet. Henderson is standing by the wall, shaking uncontrollably. An officer approaches him, taking his statement, securing the signed pathology report and the unsigned transfer documents as evidence. I stand in the center of the room, the heavy canvas jacket still buttoned, my hands resting calmly at my sides. The lead officer, a grizzled sergeant with a scar across his chin, walks over to me. He looks at the glowing hands of the suspects, looks at the broken glass, looks at me. Mr. Thorne? He asks, his voice gruff but respectful. Yes, Sergeant, I say. You're the one who called this in. You're the one who provided the financial and toxicological evidence. He looks at the floral bowl on the table, then back at me. Are you all right, sir? Did you ingest any of the toxin? I ingested it, I say, my voice steady. But I neutralized it. I am perfectly fine. The sergeant nods slowly. He's seen a lot of things in his career, but he's never seen a 70-year-old gardener take down a 250-pound orderly and orchestrate a forensic sting operation in his own dining room. We'll need you to come down to the precinct to give a formal statement, and we'll need to secure the premises. The lab in your shed, the chemicals, it's a hazmat situation now. I understand, I say. My shed is fully ventilated and compliant with EPA regulations for agricultural storage. The hidden laboratory is behind the false wall in the back. The biometric scanner is disguised as a knot in the wood. The sergeant raises an eyebrow. Right, okay, let's get these three into the cruisers. They drag Linda and Vance out of the house. Linda is screaming, her pristine cashmere sweater torn, her pearls swinging wildly around her neck. Vance is silent, his head hung low, his Pixum suit ruined. They are shoved into the back of the cruisers, the doors slamming shut with a heavy, final thud. The red and blue lights continue to flash against the trees, illuminating the rain-slicked driveway. I walk out onto the front porch. The cold rain hits my face, washing away the smell of stale tobacco, cheap body spray, and fear. I stand on the wooden steps and watch the police cars pull away, their sirens wailing into the gray mist. If someone murders the person you love, and the law says you have to wait for a trial while they spend your money and smile at you over the dinner table, do you have the right to execute justice yourself? Do you have the right to build the trap, to bait the hook, and to pull the trigger when the system is too slow, too blind, or too corrupt to see the knife hidden behind the smile? Some people would say yes. Some people would say it makes you just as bad as them. But when you are standing in the dark, watching the neon green glow of their guilt illuminate their hands, the philosophy doesn't matter. The math is all that matters. The equation is balanced. The variables are removed. I turn around and walk back into the house. The front door is splintered, hanging off its hinges. The dining room is a mess of broken glass and overturned chairs. The floral porcelain bowl is still sitting on the table, the poisoned soup growing cold. I walk into the kitchen. I turn on the faucet. The water runs clear and cold. I pick up the floral bowl and carry it to the sink. I squirt a drop of dish soap onto a sponge and begin to wash it. I scrub the inside, watching the suds turn gray, watching the last traces of the poison wash down the drain. I rinse it carefully, dry it with a clean towel, and place it on the drying rack. Martha's bowl is clean. I walk back out to the greenhouse. The rain is stopping. The clouds are breaking, and a single pale ray of afternoon sunlight pierces through the glass roof, illuminating the damp soil and the green leaves of the tomato plants. I walk to the workbench and pick up my heavy, rusted pruning shears. The steel is cold and solid in my hand. I squeeze the handles, feeling the sharp blades bite together with a satisfying metallic click. The estate is safe. The money is secure. The ghosts are quiet. I step out into the garden, my boots sinking into the wet loam. I walk over to the heirloom roses. There is a dead cane on the primary bush, a weak, diseased branch that is draining energy from the rest of the plant. I position the shears around the base of the dead wood. I squeeze the handles. Snip. The dead wood falls to the damp earth. I take a deep breath, filling my lungs with the smell of wet pine, crushed tomato leaves, and clean, cold rain. I am a gardener, and the weeding is finally done.